I'm so late to this party, I think, but I decided to do the media wrap-up tag, freak out tag, and just talk about some books that I've read this year. A little recap of my reading year so far is that I read 50 books. My goal is to read 100 books, I think, maybe. And honestly, I've had kind of a mid reading year, like nothing really exciting, not that many 5-star reads, and I read a lot of romance for the first few months of the year. I was very sad, so I mostly just read romance, books that you don't need to really focus on, but they're never my 5-star reads, so therefore I haven't had that many 5-star reads. The questions I'm answering I took from different media freakout tag videos, and I just picked a few that I have answers for. So let's start with the best books you read so far in 2023, and I just picked all of my 5-star reads. I have 5 of them, and I thought that I can just tell you about them because they are my 5-star reads. So I think the first 5-star read of the year was Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead. I was pleasantly surprised with this book, and I had a lot of fun while reading it, and it's so like ridiculous and random that I enjoyed it. And basically there's this 20-something girl and she's a lesbian, and she accidentally gets a job at the church as an assistant, and stuff happens and she gets wrapped up in a murder mystery thing, and she's a murder suspect. She doesn't like saying no to people, so she just gets wrapped up in these different things that she actually doesn't want to be part of, but because she doesn't want to say no, things happen. Anyway, I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think everyone should read this book. Also, it's by Emily Austen. Then the second book, Dance of Thieves by Mary E. Pearson. This was my first fantasy romance I read. It's enemies to lovers, dual POV, and I think the less you know about this book, the better. The main girl is a thief, basically goes on these different missions that queen of one kingdom is giving her. The guy is part of a family that says that they actually have a kingdom. It's so hard to like describe this book, but basically it's enemies to lovers and stuff happens, and it's very fast-paced in my opinion. But also there's a second book, Wow Thieves, that I have not read yet. I will get around to it, like maybe next week. And I feel like this book is kind of also a build up for the second one, but it is a duology, so, and it was a 5-star read, and I haven't read the second one, but I will soon, I promise. Then I went to New York, and I went to New Jersey, and I stayed at the lake house, and I was like, this is such a Emily Henry book scenery that I need to read some Emily Henry books. So I went to Barnes & Noble's thinking I could buy a Happy Place, but they didn't have a Happy Place because it was sold out everywhere. So I bought Beach Read, and I did a reread, and I annotated a lot of it, and I had an amazing time with this book. The first time I read it, I don't remember why, but for some reason I had given it like 3 stars in Goodreads, but the second time around it was so good, and I get the Emily Henry hype. It hit the spot. It was so good. If you haven't read this, then this follows 2 authors, and they are neighbors at a small town. They both have like lake houses, beach houses, and they went to college together, and it's like their story because they're authors, and January is going through some stuff. They make a deal, so they swap genres, and January is gonna write like kind of like a mystery literature fiction type thing, not really a mystery, but anyway. And then Augustus, or Gus as he likes to call himself, writes a romance. The main character, January, just lost her dad, and she realized that her dad had a double life, so that's why she was at that small little town, because her dad apparently had real estate there, and she goes there, and it's also like her journey and just her her character development. And Augustus Everett, the love interest in this book, where can I find one? This book is just so much more than a romance. Yeah, it's just, I'm obsessed. And then I also, in New York, read Happy Hour by Marlo Granados, and I had very mixed feelings while I was reading this. I was like, do I like this? Do I not like this? Like going back and forth. But I like underlined so many lines and pages, and I was like, this isn't the book with a huge like storyline and plot. This is about like this one character and what she thinks and what she feels and just her life in some ways. Yeah. And this basically takes place in New York. There's two best friends. They're both 21. They moved to New York, and it's just about their life and their friendship. And yeah, it's very like character focused, but I enjoyed it. And the ending, I was like, yeah, this is a good book. And I think also because I was in New York, I really enjoyed it. The last book that I gave 5 stars to, Happy Place by Amelia Henry. This was one of the most anticipated releases of 2023. This book is about friendship and growing up and deciding what, I guess, makes you happy in life, and different types of communications, and I mean, it is a love story, a second chance love story, but I think it's also a love story between friends, and like what does it mean to love someone as a friend. And yeah, so a short summary is that Harriet goes to the beach house with her friends for the last time because her friend's dad is selling the beach house, and also her ex-fiance is there, and then they kind of have to fake like they're together still because she hasn't told her friends that they're not together anymore. And yeah, I don't know, I don't really want to tell you much about it. You just have to read it. But yeah, it's second chance, kind of forced proximity, but it's so much more than romance. So yeah, this was another 5-star read for me. Books that you enjoyed more than you thought you would. So I think the first book, I was like, oh, I'm just reading another romance, and that was The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary, and I read it on a beach, and it was just a good read, and I gave it 4 stars. So this follows, what's her name? This follows Tiffy, and she doesn't know who her roommate is because she spends like half of the time at the flat, and then her roommate spends the other half of the time at that flat because they have different schedules, and one of them works during the night and one of them works during the day. And what's the guy called? Leon. And so yeah, Leon is her flatmate, and basically it's, who would have guessed, their love story. And for like almost half of the book they don't meet actually, and they just communicate via post-it notes and different text messages. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. So that was one of them that I was very pleasantly surprised with. Then I was also very pleasantly surprised with Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. That's another romance, and that follows 2 doctors, and it's their love story. The guy in this book, Jacob, struggles with anxiety, and he's constantly overthinking everything. It was refreshing to read that kind of character, and Rihanna was just so sweet. I think also they also like fake date, and they just like they're friends and then they're lovers, and it was so sweet. Like I don't know what to tell you about this book because it's I don't want to spoil it because I went into this blindly, but honestly, like, protect Jacob at all costs. Like, he was so sweet. He was so sweet. And then the last book that I enjoyed more than I thought I would was Love Wager by Lynn Painter. And it's also not a romance. Basically, the main characters, Hallie and Jack, they have like this one night together, and they decide it's nothing It's just going to be one night, but then they see each other on a dating app, and then they decide to have a love wager and see who can find love first, because they say that they're not interested in each other. And then they start going on different dates and with different people, and then they meet up afterwards and talk about their date and so on and so on, and then they become like very good friends, and then in the end it's their love story or romance. So yeah, it was good. I enjoyed it. Then the next question is new releases you haven't read yet but want to. My answer for that is Fourth Wing. It's a fantasy with dragons. I've seen it everywhere on the internet and I'm just intrigued and I want to read it too. Most anticipated releases for the second half of the year for me, I would say The Wake Up Call by Beth O'Leary, the one who wrote The Flatshare. What I know about this is that it's like rivals and they have a hotel, and I think it's something to do with the hotel. They need to sell the hotel or something. Anyway, I just know that it's rivals and it's based around the hotel. And the second book that I really want to read when it comes out is So Late in the Day by Claire Keegan. And what I gather is that it's just stories about love, lust, betrayal, and the ever-intriguing interchanges between women and men. And I don't know much about it, but I saw it somewhere and I wrote it down and I want to read it when it comes out. And maybe another fun one, because I think I'm in my romance era right now. It's the third book in the Kings of Sin series, I think, by Anna Huang, and it's the third book that's called King of Greed. I read the first two. I had fun while reading them, so I follow Anna Huang on Instagram and she's constantly teasing the third book. I want to read it because she's teasing it. The biggest surprise book-wise I've had this year is, oh my god, this is so embarrassing, but basically I was like, okay, let's see what dark romance is about, right? And I see so many people on Twitter rave about the Dark Verse series. I was like, okay, let me just read the first. And then I read the first book in the Dark Verse series and I was like, this is fun. And then I read the second one, I was like, this is so much fun. And then I read the third one, I was like, this is fun. And then I read the fourth one, I was like, this is still fun. I have not read the fifth one and I know there's another book coming out, but I think I'm just prolonging the fact that right now I can just pick up the next book and read it. But yeah, I started reading it because I was like, first of all, I wanna see what dark romance is about, and then second of all, I was like, it's just for a joke, you know? And then actually, it's fun. In a weird way, I had so much fun reading it, and I'm gonna read the fifth one, and then I know another one is coming out, I think this year. So maybe that's also another anticipated read for me. And yeah, I don't think like dark romance is for me, but that series, the Dark Verse series, is fun. But also check the trigger warnings because it can be very triggering, and I was like, okay, I understand that this is a dark romance. Favorite new author? Say it with me, say it with me, Emily Henry. Yes, thank you very much. I'm on that Emily Henry hype train right now, and I get it. I get the hype. Then, newest fictional crush, I would also say Augustus Everett from Beach Read. Like, he has a special place in my heart. And some of the things he said, I was like, if you know, you know. And let me think, do I have any other new fiction crushes? I mean, Jacob from Yours Truly. He's very sweet. Maybe also Chase from Dance of Thieves, because that book consumed my life. And Chase is cool, but I think I like Kaji more, so maybe Kaji is another fiction crush. Then a book I gave 1 star to, and that book is My Dark Romeo. The only thing good about this book, in my opinion, is the cover. I truly decided to read this book because of the cover. It's by Parker S. Huntington and L.J. Shen. And yeah, in my opinion, it just, I don't know. I was like, okay, I think this is another dark romance, but the cover looks cool, so let's give it a chance. I don't know why I didn't DNF it, but it was not the vibe for me. But I know some people enjoyed it, so good for them. A book that you have DNF'd. I don't usually DNF books, but this is a soft DNF. Like, I might someday read it. I might read it, but at the moment I'm like, I can't do this. And the book is The Light Through the Leaves by Tlendi Wandera. It's like a mystery. It's not really a thriller, but the book started with a woman. She basically forgot her child somewhere, and when she went back, the child wasn't there anymore. So her child is missing, and I don't know, this book made me so anxious, and I only read like the first 4 chapters, and I was like, I don't even want to know what's gonna happen next. The family dynamic is also weird because her husband's mom is super weird, and they're like giving her all these different medicines, and I don't know. I mean, it says that the journeys will converge in unexpected and hopeful ways, pulled together by the force of nature, love and family. But it just stressed me out. I know I'm not that far in, but I was like, I can't do this right now. So maybe someday. Because it has like super high ratings in Goodreads. That's why I picked it up. I mean, I was gifted this book, but then I started reading it because I was like, oh, it has very high ratings on Goodreads. Can't do this right now. Most beautiful book you bought so far this year? I would say Dance of Thieves Duology. I think these books look very nice. As well as the book I'm currently reading, Daughter of the Moon Goddess by Su Lin Tan, and it's another fantasy. It's also a duology, and I think this book cover is also super pretty. And I do like the Happy Place cover as well, but I think it's just because it makes me happy. And the last question is, what books do you need to read by the end of the year? And I just picked 4 from my physical TBR. The first book I actually don't have with me because I borrowed it to a friend. It's Lessons in Chemistry by Bonnie Garmus. This book, I feel like, has a lot of hype around it, and I just want to know what's it about. So, and I have it, so I'm gonna read it. Then I also want to read Bernardine Evaristo's Girl, Woman, Other, because I've had this for so long and I think it's an important book to read. So I will get to this before 2023 ends, and I have 6 months. I think I can do it. Then I also want to read Boy Parts by Elisa Clark, and I've just also had this book for a long time. I don't know much about it. It's supposed to be a weird, eerie kind of book, but I'm excited and I love the cover of it, so I want to read it. And then I also want to read Six of Crows duology. I only had the first book, by Lee Bardugo. One thing I've discovered recently is fantasy, and I want to read more fantasy. So like currently I'm reading Daughter of the Moon Goddess, and I want to read Six of Crows duology. I also do need to finish Dance of Thieves duology. I'm good at starting things, but I'm bad at finishing series and stuff because I don't want it to end. So I just kind of put off reading the last or the second book or whatever in a series because I'm like, if I read this, then it will be over. Anyway, yes, lots of books to read, and that's exciting. So yeah, thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe if you like this. I will see you hopefully soon. Bye!